What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to a bit of an impromptu late night agenda because we weren't supposed to be streaming tonight, but well, events have conspired to make sure that we do stream because the news starting to break about Liverpool's interest in Hato from Fabrizio Romano. More news coming out around the likelihood of Trent Alexander-Arnold joining Real Madrid. So we have a busy evening ahead. The interview with Ben is going to be coming out tomorrow. Ben Bochak. We recorded that earlier on. We were speaking about Milos Kerkez. We were speaking about Dominik Szoboszlai. The interview that he conducted around the Mohamed Salah situation. So that'll be coming out tomorrow, and it was really lovely to catch up with him. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video because I certainly enjoyed recording with him. And as you can also see from tonight's entry or the holding screen, the tickets for the live show, we've pushed it forward because, well, loads of people were inquiring about them. We spoke to the venue and we thought we'd release the tickets quicker. So the Anfield Agenda end of season party live show at the Hot Water Comedy Club is now on sale, and the tickets you can get with the link pinned to the top of the chat. Right, so much to get through, folks. So much to get through. But as always, want to thank you for coming and joining us this evening. We are also going to be speaking a little bit about interest in Xavi Simons, apparently, as well. Some more of a Dutch contingent being brought towards Anfield. So I don't even know where to start. Genuinely, there's just so much news today to go through. How am I feeling about tomorrow's game, said Just Henry. Excited. It could be another big day in the Premier League title race tomorrow. You know, we have our own difficult encounter with Newcastle at Anfield, but, you know, we know that Arsenal, for example, are going to the City Ground to take on Forest, and that's going to be a difficult task. Right, oh God, where do we go? Let's start off with a bit of news around Isak, actually. Let's start off with that one. So, speaking to some journalists today and doing my own digging as well, I feel a little bit more upbeat about the possibility of Liverpool actually spending the money to get Alexander Isak. There's been lots of encouragement given to us by journalists and others that we've spoken to around Liverpool's interest in signing him. Now, again, I can't tell you what Newcastle will do or won't do with the situation, but it seems like the price tag isn't putting off Liverpool's interest in Isak. Don't know how much we'd bring in from the likes of Darwin Núñez or whatever, but £150 million or €180 million is the figure that was mentioned around Alexander Isak, and this was in the Mirror, by the way. So we did ask that today of some people behind the scenes, and surprisingly, they think it is something Liverpool are really looking at. Look, I'll be amazed if we pony up that kind of money for Isak, but it's intriguing. It is. Now, again, some of the conversation that I had with Ben Bochak around Milos Kerkez was also quite interesting. And it feels as if he's the option if we don't spend a load of dough, if you get me. So he's going to be more expensive than some of the other options that Liverpool are looking at left back. And apparently, if we have to recruit and spend a lot of money elsewhere, then we may look to bring in somebody a little bit more cost effective at left back, although that may depend on money we bring in from sales and stuff as well. Jamie said, Craig, my friend, Trent is now considered as dead weight. What do we do with that? We can't cut it, drop it if you agree. Look, I'm concerned about the Trent situation for two reasons, Jamie. Firstly, losing him. You know, nobody wants that to happen. And look, I know that we're all preparing for it psychologically, but we don't want to lose him. So I'm worried about that. And then I'm also worried about what happens if in the semi-final of the Champions League we come up against Madrid. Because that's entirely possible now. If Madrid get through the Atleti game and the winner of the Arsenal PSV game, they could be sitting there in the semi-final waiting for us. And that, that worries me because you can't trust them in that game. I don't care how professional people try to make out like players are. When that hanging over his head, there's no way I'd feel comfortable playing him home and away in the Champions League against Real Madrid. I just wouldn't personally. TOTT2KZ1 tickets booked, cannot wait to come and see you. Thank you, my man. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you guys at the shows, and no doubt we'll see you at this one as well. Jen, Craig, our greatest signing ever. We love that, Jen. Thank you so much for your continued support of the channel. 25 months with us as a member, Jen. Absolute generosity of spirit and support. Can't believe you're here with us that long, but thank you. So I guess, yeah, look, I don't have anything. At this point, I'm more than 90% that Trent's gone. I feel like it's done at this point, and Real Madrid are putting out lots more encouraging stuff on their side of the media. And the interesting side for me is you're not seeing much pushback from our side of things, and that's what worries me, because I warned everybody all the way through that for me this was Trent looking to have jam on both sides of his bread, and I felt like we were being strung along as fans. And the longer it goes on, I feel like I'm going to be saying I told you so again, because he's definitely digging a hole for himself with me, with the fan base. Should have been upfront and honest earlier, and maybe we'll find out someday why Trent decided to leave. But I was drawn to a video that he made talking about his favourite goals growing up, and when he starts talking about a 2002 Champions League final with Zinedine Zidane scoring the goal when he was 3 years of age, come on now, there's no way he remembers that, let alone thinks of it as one of his favourite goals. I think it was in the Adidas video that he did. So there's been lots of signs there to suggest that it is probably going to be a departure for Trent. But now you're starting to see more and more of it come out. Romano saying that Trent or Madrid are obsessed with him and they feel like it's absolutely done at this point. But we just need that confirmation as fans, I think. Kick Lizard said, if you had to choose one to sign, Huijsen or Xerxes? Huijsen. I think we can get other left backs. Joel Hato, one that is being looked at, and we're going to talk about him tonight. But in that situation, I would go with Huijsen, but I think I'd like to see him work on his upper body strength over the next couple of seasons before he becomes a mainstay maybe in that Liverpool centre-back position when Virgil departs in 2, 3, whatever many years' time. Right, so I've got so much to go through. I'm trying to figure out what to start with, but I do have to give a shout out to our sponsors, Surfshark, and I do have to, of course, play a little video from our friends at Surfshark. And don't worry, I'll be back, as I say, in 83 quick seconds, and we'll go through it all. But just bear with me as I play the Surfshark ad read, and I'll see you guys, and we'll talk about everything in 83 seconds. Talk to you in a bit. This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe and secure from hackers. Using Surfshark, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries or other streaming platforms like DAZN in Spain for all those important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. Everything. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe from being hacked if you use public Wi-Fi. Let's say you're in a cafe, you're at college, you're out and about, they've got you covered. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning you can share your account with friends or family or that neighbour who's a little bit cheap. On top of all of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can also upgrade to Surfshark One, which includes the VPN, an alert system for breaches related to your data, such as emails and credit cards, and an antivirus software for your desktop. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for a little over €2 a month. Simply scan the QR code on screen right now or use the link in the description. Right, my friends, we are back, and as promised, we're going to get stuck into the news. So, I've seen a comment that made me laugh there, by the way. 83 seconds is average, not quick. Good. I'll take that. That means I'm in the average territory, man. 83 seconds. I know where you were going with it, but I like it. Well played. So, look, somebody also said to me there in the chat, Craig Hato's a left-back. I know, that's why I just mentioned Xerxes and Hato. I know I've mentioned him as a centre-back option as well, because he has been linked as one that could move in to play left side of centre-back as well. But you are right. And I think he's more likely at this point, based off what we're going to go through tonight. So let's read through, let's go with some of the stuff Fabrizio Romano has put out late this evening. Let's go through some of his quotes. So these are all from Fabrizio Romano. Real Madrid are obsessed with Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's an option. He's option number 1, number 2, number 3. Today I can tell you 4 and 5. They see him as the perfect piece for their puzzle. Goes on to say Real Madrid keep Trent on top of their list and are not changing their mind. Nothing is changing at the club. Trent. A very clear message from Madrid. On top of that, breaking from Fabrizio Romano, Liverpool are monitoring Jarell Hato. They are already planning with their scouting department for at least 2 or 3 more missions in the Netherlands to follow Hato. Now that I find very interesting, because I don't want us to be overstocked with Dutch players either, but Romano saying there that Liverpool are planning 2 or 3 more missions. I don't know if he means scouting missions or whatever to follow Hato. Goes on to say Liverpool have been following Hato for a long time and they keep following his progress. He's for sure one of the players being watched along with Huijsen. He is one to watch for the summer. So, I mean, I'm going to ask a simple question. Would you be happy with those two? So let's get a poll going. You know I love a poll in the chat. Right, so question is, would you be happy with Hato and Huijsen for the 2 defensive positions? So let me know. Vote away on that one, yes or no. I know there are other options, by the way. I'm not trying to say this is it. But I want to know if they were the two that came in the summer, along with Virgil renewing his contract, would you be happy with them? I have to say I would. I would. I'd be happy with Huijsen and Hato if they're the ones that the manager wanted and they both come in the door. I certainly wouldn't have any complaints about it. Right, Kick Lizard, thank you for your super chat. My man said, if you had to choose one to sign, Huijsen or Kerkez, Huijsen. I think I can make more sense of him. This one, who would you want, Isak or Huijsen? Isak. Isak would be the top priority, I think, for most Reds this summer, as well as I'm sure most Arsenal fans as well. And Brox also said, who would you sell, Darwin or Chiesa? Darwin. Look, it doesn't feel like Arne Slot wanted Federico Chiesa based off what we're seeing this season, but Darwin is the one that will free up the most cash. So I would say Darwin. And he is the one that will be sold this summer as well. Sonny, how are you, my friend? Said, Trent has been at Madrid since Christmas. I finished caring about him staying by Christmas. Just try to enjoy the players we have while we still have them. Look, I've always felt it was likely he would leave, Sonny, but I've never had any confirmation of it. You know, I've been entirely open and honest to say I don't know about the Trent situation, but over the last 48 hours, there's been a real shift in the narrative around the likelihood of moving on. From the Sam Wallace piece onwards, the last 2 days have been filled with a lot of talk of Trent moving to Real Madrid and without much pushback. And journalists I spoke with today, both on and off video, feel like he's going to go as well. So yeah, it's one that I just hope is dealt with properly by the club, because as I've said all the way through this, if his mind was made up a long time ago, it looked quite shitty right now for Trent. That's all I can say. I don't want any toxicity towards Trent, but this is the world we're in. And I think by not being upfront about it and dragging it out as long as it's been, people are going to feel rightly pissed off by it. I know I do as a fan, but certainly not enough that I would ever wish any toxicity or hate towards the lad. But I just don't think it's been dealt with well. And whoever is advising him, if the advice was to just keep quiet and see what happens, I just don't think that's the right advice either. But as I've always said, we've never seen anybody say that he's going to stay. We've never seen him come out and say that he wants to stay, and that's always concerned me. A Teakster, thank you for your super chat, my friend. Very kind of you. Said, let Trent leave. His defensive skills are non-existent. Teams always attack us from his side. We don't need him. For his passes, not his job to pass. We can get better creative midfielders. So, look, I'm not saying I disagree. I agree with a lot of what you've written. I do. I agree with a lot of what you've written, but I won't sit here and lie either and say I wouldn't have preferred if Trent stayed. I would. I would for a couple of reasons. One, it's one less headache for the manager to have to sort out. And 2, he's a Scouser. He's a local boy. But I'm not going to lie as well, Atik's there. If he leaves this way, without a transfer fee for the club, with delaying signing of a contract and extension, I'm going to feel pissed off about it. You know, I am. I'm going to put him right in there with the Steve McManamans, the Michael Owens of this world. And his legacy for me will be absolutely tainted. But I can only speak in my own opinion and my own perspective. And I just feel like we've been played here. And I felt like that all the way through. And I got in trouble for it, and people have called me out for it. And people have said, Craig, he's been quiet, he's been respectful, he wants to deal with it behind the scenes. And I can understand that. But like, I tried to push back and say, that's great if he stays. All the being, respectful of the club stuff is great if he stays. But if he doesn't stay, which is looking like he isn't, then it starts to feel a very different conversation for me. Stevie boy, how are you, sir? Said, Craig, is there any way this football club comes out and explain why the contracts had not been renewed 2 years ago? Well, I mean, we're not going to get that explanation, are we, mate? We're not. You know we're not. Because that would have to be them admitting that they shit the bed. Now, ultimately, for me, from the contracts perspective, if Virgil and Mo get done, look, I'm going to be happy about it. I would have liked it done sooner. But once they get done, I'll be happy. I think all of us have been preparing for Trent leaving psychologically. So, I'm probably a bit less upset about the idea of Trent leaving. I still think it's big shoes to fill for us. I still think Trent's a hugely talented footballer. But it does feel like he's wanted this move, and I don't begrudge him it. It's his career. But, you got to accept the fallout that comes from it, because there will be some very, very angry Liverpool fans. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't think anybody has any right to judge. But, again, I would urge everybody, don't go too far with it. You've every right to feel however you want to feel, but don't be letting it get to hate. Don't be going on with toxicity publicly. It is what it is, If he joins Real Madrid, I and you and many others probably feel it'll be a decision long term he'll regret. But it's his decision to make. Trent will fit right into that Real Madrid team, and I could understand him wanting to leave, because if you're a player, you don't say no to Madrid. I can understand where you're coming from, but I would say differently. If you're a Scouser who's talked about wanting to captain the side, and you're in a team now that's about to win another league, you're talking legacy at that point. And the argument of him having won stuff at Liverpool, that's a very fair argument as well. But you can't deny that Real Madrid coming knocking for a free transfer and Trent finding a way to get out without Liverpool recouping any money, that stings a little bit. It just does. There's no denying it. If Trent was going for 100 million quid, and we were hearing that this was a move that he had to try and all this stuff, and he felt like it was necessary in his career, I think people would react differently. But the way that this is happening, the stalling of the contract negotiations, the waiting for the new coach stuff, all the goodwill that people gave to him in the situation, feels like 2 fingers up at this point if he leaves. And that's how I feel. I'm not telling you how to feel, but I'm also not going to have anyone telling me I'm wrong for feeling the way I feel, which is that we've been played. And I warned it all the way through. To me, human nature showed me that Trent was leaving. And we've not seen nothing to doubt it. So what's all this shit about, by the way? That I do want to know. What's all this about now, if he's leaving? Raccoon said, Craig, as a Scouser, this Trent stuff is different for us. If he goes, it's ratty betrayal. Him leaving without us being paid £100 million player or whatever cannot be forgiven. So look, as I said, my friend, you're free, and I totally understand where you're coming from, by the way. But yeah, I get where you are. I don't have any right to speak on behalf of Scouse people because I'm Irish. I'm not Scouse. I am a Liverpool fan. But I don't have that same connection to Trent because, you know, I wasn't born and raised in the city of Liverpool. But if I was, I dare say I'd be right there with you. and I certainly feel the way that you're feeling. You know, you want the club, you want to love the club, well, then you want the club to benefit from you moving on. And the question that I keep asking myself is, would Real Madrid have wanted him for 70 or 80 million? And I would venture to say the answer would be no. But, you know, he got himself into this position where his contract is what it is, and, you know, he can leave for free. For me, the real telling point, and I agreed with, I think it was Jamie Carragher or somebody at the time, said, when this offer came in, maybe it was Gary Neville actually, when the offer came in from Madrid for a really low sum in January, I agreed with whoever it was, whether it was Carragher or Neville, that said this wouldn't have happened without Trent knowing. And I absolutely believed that at the time, and I believe it now. And again, the biggest indication is no pushback from any of the English journalists against any of this news, or to say that it's bullshit, or to say that Trent's staying. I think that in itself is telling. But again, we still have to wait for the confirmation of it. But I tell you this, and I feel very comfortable in saying this in front of anyone. If Trent is leaving, and the club know that he's leaving, even if he hasn't announced it publicly or not yet, and we play Real Madrid over 2 legs, there's no chance in fucking hell he should be on that pitch. Not a hope. None. Zero. You seen what happened in the United game after news broke the day before around contract offers for Trent, and he put in a horrendous performance. There is absolutely no way on earth that I'd be putting him in that team to play Real Madrid over 2 legs, home or away. Not a chance in hell would I do it. No way. You know, I know Arne Slot wouldn't drop him, but I would. Soon as Bradley was back fit, his ass would be on the bench, and that would be the end of him for me. You know, you made your decision. Now we're going to look to the future. That's the way I see it, whether that's shitty or not. It's the way I see it, and it's exactly what I do as a coach. Especially if the league was won at that point. You know, you're not the future of this club, then, you know, we look to the future. For me, he won't be owned status unless he goes to United or Everton. Definitely tainted legacy, but not quite that far. Well, at least with Michael Owen, we got a few million quid. If I remember correctly, I think it was about £8 million. But I totally do understand your point there, Daniel. Yeah, it's all, you know, you can make your own mind up about whether you think he left in the right way or not. But as you said, going and playing for United, that was shocking for Michael Owen. So I totally understand where you're coming from, Daniel. Do you think Trent would get booed if he came to Anfield as a Real Madrid player? No, I don't. Liverpool fans are better than that. And also, I think it would depend on the circumstances that he comes back. But I would be surprised if he got booed. I would. But, you know, I don't know. I'd love to know who's advising them as well and what they're saying about it. Because I think the advice to stay quiet is the wrong advice. But again, we'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, I think we've given enough time to Trent over this conversation. I think there's lots more we can talk about tonight. And we'll start back with maybe some hints that the Mohamed Salah stuff is getting close to a good conclusion for Liverpool. So Arne Slot has been speaking about Mohamed Salah and the contract, and he said, if he does really well, the more expensive he becomes. If he didn't play so good, maybe we would have second thoughts about whether we want him to extend. Hopefully, he will extend. At least saying categorically that the manager wants him to extend. And that should hold a lot of weight in this conversation. Because whatever the club think about 2 years down the line or whatever, he's delivering right now. He's a talisman. He's the best player in the world. And Mohamed Salah should stay at Liverpool. Arne went on to say, if you want to play for this club, you need to be at his level, Mohamed Salah's level, or you are almost useless to play at this club. We only need players that are at the top of their game. This is one of, if not the best club in the world to play for. Our manager. What a man. Love it. With you on that, Craig. He talks about wanting to be the next Gerrard. Can't do that at Madrid. So, the latest Adidas video Trent did, I'm almost certain in it because a journalist told me this, that in that video we spoke about Zidane's goal being one that he looks back on as one of his favourite goals, which is absolute horseshit and had never been brought up previously. It's always been about Gerrard, always been about Liverpool heroes, and now we're getting the full Jude Bellingham treatment of all of a sudden Zidane becomes his hero, and Zidane's the most important. It's all bullshit. You know it, I know it, and I just hope at this point people stop having a pop at me when I say the things out loud that people are thinking to themselves, because I've been talking about this situation with Trent and all the way through, and it's engineered in my eyes. You know, I've always felt like Virgil and Mo's isn't in their own hands as much, but Trent's was, and I think the club will have made every effort to Trent at this point. "3 days to Liverpool documentary on Amazon," said Tommy. "We need a proper right back, Craig. There's one out there with his passes." Well, give us some suggestions, by the way. You know, I have to be honest with you and say I've not done much research looking at right backs. So give me some suggestions of who you think Liverpool could, maybe should be looking at in that situation. Tyler said, "If we can buy Isak, we can extend contract. Simple." I agree, mate. And you know what? A lot of people that I've spoken to, they do feel like we will see money spent. Genuinely, that we will see proper money spent by Liverpool this summer. There's a lot of encouragement being given around a big summer. I know we've been here before. We'll have to wait and see, but it's certainly not bad hearing these things. Now, whether they follow through with it or not, we'll see. Ryan said, "I like the idea of Wesley at right back. The obvious is Frimpong, but I don't think it'd be a good move," said Robert. So I think one of our fullbacks we can maybe afford to go a bit attack-minded with. And on the other side then I think we need more balance of defending. So if we go for a really ballsy attacking right back, I feel like we need a more balanced left back who is a bit more solid defensively. I don't think we could have two gung-ho fullbacks just tearing down without any defensive work. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Gethin said Kimmich. It looks as if he's going to extend the Bayern. Some news coming out of Germany over the last 24 hours has suggested that Bayern are closing in on a contract extension for Joshua Kimmich. So that would be their fourth one that they've gotten done. That would be Kimmich, Musiala, Neuer, and who was the other one? Kimmich, Musiala, Neuer. Can't remember. There's one more big contract anyway. So yeah, it looks like they've managed to get 3 or 4. Who was the other one? That's going to bug me now. Kimmich. Oh, Davies, Alphonso Davies. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, they've got 4 big contracts done, but we're still waiting. Is there anyone like Gravenberch at a club who's out of favour? There probably is, yeah. I mean, I don't really think too far ahead with transfers, because for me the priority has been knowing if the contracts are going to be extended, and then we can work from that. I mentioned this earlier on. I'm going to put it up on screen now for you so you can see the full graphic of it. Bear with me. I just want to drag this in so I can bring it up on screen for you. Where is it? There you go. Bear with me here for a sec. Right, so I'm trying to make this as big as I can so you guys can see it. It's a Sky Sports graphic, as you can see. And there it talks about Premier League net spending and spending since 2022-2023. And as you can see, Chelsea have a net spend of £784 million over the last 3 years. Then you see Manchester United with a net spend of 477. Then you see 347 from Spurs. And you go all the way down to 10th on that list, behind Southampton, Newcastle, Bournemouth, West Ham, Forest, Arsenal, Spurs, United and Chelsea. And then comes Liverpool with a net spend of 171 over those 3 years. And that's what we're up against. That's why we do have money to spend this summer. And that's why I genuinely feel like we'll see the money being spent. Are we just going to sign Bournemouth players like we did from Southampton? I get the feeling the Hato's more likely than Kirkes. I think Hoyson, as Fabrizio Romano and others have said, seems like a very achievable centre-back option. But I do think Liverpool won't see value in £50 million for Milos Kirkes. If you can get Jurel Hato for about 40 million euro, which is about what, 33, 34 million pound, that's a good saving. That's about 16 million quid saved off what would be asked for Milos Kerkez, which would be 50 million pound upwards. So the numbers are going to have to come into this as well. If you're going to be putting a load of dough into a centre forward and you need a centre back, left back, the money adds up quite quickly. Right, the poll is there, by the way. If you haven't cast your vote yet, would you be happy with Hato and Huijsen for the defence if they were the two defensive options brought in? I would like us to buy Mitoma. He's too old. He's too old. Mitoma, I think, is 27, heading for 28. Don't see Liverpool going and spending that money on somebody of that age, to be honest. Especially knowing the way we operate. We're looking for players no older than 24 usually. Craig, do you think we will sign Zubimendi striker this summer? You're an Arsenal fan, Val. I don't know, but your manager needs to get a forward in. If he doesn't, well, he will. But do you know what, Val? I've kind of had, not of you, this isn't aimed at you, but I've just had enough of Arsenal fans. They are absolute deluded clowns. The ones on X should be all banned. They're absolute idiots. Honestly, I'm fed up with their delusion. Finding any stat that they can use to try to make themselves feel better about their own failures this season. Blaming referees, blaming other teams not showing up, blaming the fact that they have injuries and they think nobody else does. Every single metric and every single one of these clowns, I'm done with. You know, the few kind ones, the few decent ones that come in and show some respect to other teams, fair play. But the ones that are on X and social media, it's becoming embarrassing for football, looking at these deluded little weirdos talking shite non-stop. Arsenal haven't won the league this year because of Arsenal. End of conversation. You know, they, as Sam Maguire said, they were using videos of Saka scoring against us and saying that they didn't deserve to not win against us and that we didn't deserve anything from the game, that they had injuries and Gabriel went off, ignoring the fact that we had a backup goalkeeper in goal and we had our own injuries. They're just strange people. And said, is Trent 100% out? Look, until you get the confirmation from the club and from Trent, you can never say yes. But I feel comfortable in saying the narrative and the vibe around it is very much that he's leaving. I've not gotten much encouragement at all about the idea of him staying. George said, must be a Dutch player out of contract. I mean, I am a little bit concerned by what Fabrizio Romano said there about Liverpool going back. What was the exact wording? Liverpool scouting department are planning on at least 2 or 3 more missions in the Netherlands to follow Hato. So I think by that he means 2 or 3 more trips over to look at Hato rather than 2 or 3 more trips to buy more Dutch players. That's what I assume he means by that. If they chickened out of attacking us that game, they probably wouldn't have beaten us. That's exactly it, Blair. You know, no mention of the fact that when they were 2-1 up, they were running to the corner flags like cowards, trying to run down the clock. You know, nobody caused them to do that but themselves. So I'm right with you on that one. LFC Transfer Room posted this to say, info, Real Madrid are no longer just optimistic about Trent Alexander-Arnold's arrival, but now see it more as a firm thing. Trent has rejected the proposals from Liverpool and are aware of his likelihood of leaving. That's why Conor Bradley has started more games. At la_SER being the source of that story. Naz said, Craig, I thought there was not a live stream tonight. There wasn't supposed to be, but things move quickly in football, my friend. And there's a couple of stories that I wanted to come on and talk about tonight. Aryan said, this seems like BS. Well, if you can find me one story, Aryan, just one, to say that Trent's staying, I'll stop talking about it. But I've spoken with journalists today. I've done my own reading up on things. I've been watching and monitoring other sites. And there isn't a single goddamn thing to be said for Trent staying. None. Nobody. Nobody's writing about it. Nobody's calling out these other stories to say that they're all untrue. And people that want to just keep thinking the best of Trent and the situation, I get it. I understand it. But I just think you're being very naive about it. Because to a lot of us, it feels like the writing's been on the wall for a long time about the Trent situation. But again, I respect your opinion. Here's a story that I hope isn't true, because he's not good enough to come to Liverpool, in my opinion. But this piece here, again coming out of Spain, said Liverpool have identified Xavi Simons as a replacement for Mo Salah if he leaves as a free agent. I don't for 1 second believe that to be true, because he's not good enough to come in, not just to replace Mo Salah, but I would go as far as to say I just don't think Xavi Simons is good enough yet to come to Liverpool, full stop. I'm not convinced yet, and from speaking with you guys over the last few months and polls we've conducted, I don't think there'll be many Liverpool fans that'll be overly convinced at the idea of Liverpool looking to buy Xavi Simons. He's going to be a 60 million plus player, not worth it, said Arjun. He just signed for Leipzig for 85 million. Liverpool ain't stupid to pay even 40. I don't think Leipzig bought him for 85 million. Leipzig wouldn't have 85 million to pay for anybody. I know they signed from PSG, but I don't think it was 85 million. Leipzig don't throw around that type of money. Cam said, gut feeling is that we'll get Hato for sure. Fits the roles we need to fill. Plus he's mates with some of our key players. I agree. And I agree. It seems more likely to me than Kirkes at left back. And he can step in then if at a push as he develops, and maybe even play as left centre back if needs be. Arjun said he checked it was 50 million euro. So there you go. Which is about 42 million pound. So I agree. There's no way. And I don't think he's worth that much money either. Keane said, would love Cunha, Hato and Huijsen with Virgil Mo contracts, then I'm happy. I mean, I wouldn't be displeased with that window. I think we probably need another body on top of that, but I wouldn't be displeased with the names you've mentioned. Jay said, Craig, who would you get at right back if Trent leaves? Hand on heart, man, I don't know. And the reason, by the way, that I'm talking about Hato probably being more likely is the price. Like I've mentioned a while back. If Liverpool are to go out and spend a lot of money in this window, and yes, we'll recoup some as well, but if we genuinely are to go out and spend a lot of money, I don't think £50 million upwards for a left back is going to be top priority. I just get the feeling if you spend £34 million or €40 million on Hato, it makes a lot more sense saving that £16 million there on an equally as promising player, albeit not as explosive as Kirkes. But you never know. You never know. They're two good options, and I think two options that most Liverpool fans would certainly be open to the idea of. Xavi is a baller. No, he's not. If he was a baller, he'd already be at a top club, but he isn't. He's at Leipzig in a team that's struggling and left PSG, who didn't want them. I just don't see the baller part. I see a flash in the pan. I see somebody who has potential but hasn't yet achieved all of that potential. And I think there's way better options. Just my personal take, though. I wonder what Caicedo and Fernandes are thinking. We had a conversation in our Discord about Caicedo the other day, and I said I would have been still delighted if we'd have signed him. Szoboszlai was at Leipzig. What the fuck has that got to do with anything? I don't understand where you're going here, mate. Like, I never said Leipzig players aren't good enough. I said he's playing in a struggling Leipzig team. You know, you could see in Dominik Szoboszlai what he had in his locker. You could see that he was going to make it. You could see it with the national team as well. I don't see anywhere near a comparable player in Xavi Simons personally. But again, look, my opinion doesn't matter, does it? It's the manager and the club's opinion that counts. Aryan said, if Trent does leave, Bradley is a solid replacement. He is, if he can stay fit. And that's a genuine concern for a lot of people. You know, Bradley's done really well, but he's out now again. And actually, on Conor Bradley, the manager said today in his press conference that he'd be out for a few weeks. So, you know, there you go on that one. What do you think about Anthony Robinson? Way too old, Jay. He's 28. What would be the point of moving on a player and bringing a 28-year-old? It just makes, again, and a 28-year-old from a Premier League club to another Premier League club, which means you'd have to pay top dollar as well. It just doesn't make any sense. Right, this one. Again, these tickets are now on sale, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to quickly draw your attention to that. We had so many inquiries about it that we decided to push the launch of the tickets ahead by a week, and they are now on sale. There's a link for the tickets at the top of the chat, pinned right there now, and I'm assuming it'll be in the description of the video or the stream as well. So if you do want to come along, you can get your tickets at the Hot Water Comedy Club. It is an all-ages event, and there you go. Solid edit that, Craig. Big budget. It took about 10 minutes. You know, Connor knocked that out in about 10 minutes. 28 is not old. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. To be bringing in a left back in the Premier League at 28 and spending upwards of £40 million would just be stupid, when you could get somebody far younger with a lot more ahead of them. You know, when do you see Liverpool going out there and sign a 28-year-old, Thiago aside? We just don't do it. Especially in a position where it's a young man's game, a fullback, getting up and down that flank all day. Even Thiago showed us why not. Endo, yeah, that's a good shout, but that was a bargain basement signing. So Endo was a good shout though, Kevin, fair play. Yeah, but that was acknowledged, I guess, as a stick and plaster kind of signing. But yeah, no, it's a good shout. We did bring him in at 30 or 29-30 when he came in. But again, you were talking much smaller money, 40 million quid upwards there for Anthony Robinson. He was having a brilliant time at Fulham. I'd have no problem talking about the quality of the lad. He's very good. So Dario AS put out a story about Georgi Mamardashvili that said Georgi Mamardashvili is back to being human and no longer is seen as their miracle goalkeeper after a number of mistakes. He now finds his starting position at risk of being taken away, although his professionalism is not being questioned. Thoughts on that? I mean, I haven't really watched much of Valencia this season. I know they're struggling down at the bottom end of La Liga, but I mean, I think they've got bigger problems than just trying to pin it on a goalkeeper. All ages not going if no bar and you're stripping. So did anybody ever mention no bar? Hey? You know, I don't know what venues you go to, but you know, there is such a thing as show me your ID if you want to drink. And no one ever mentioned about me stripping either, but hey ho, come, don't come, up to you, bro. Don't really mind, your decision. But the bar will be open, as will all the food venues and everything else in and around it. George said, I'm not convinced by the new keeper. Think Kelleher's better. I will never understand why we didn't give Kelleher the shot as number one. Look, I don't know what's going to happen with Georgi Mamardashvili. I've no idea. But I totally don't understand why they didn't want to give Kelleher the chance as the number one. I don't understand that. Maybe I'm blind and biased as an Irishman, but I don't know what more Quiveen could have done to show that he belongs at the level. Came in and deputised admirably for Alisson. The only real error I can think of was the Newcastle one off the top of my head. and every goalkeeper is going to make an error. So for me, I agree. I think Kelleher's brilliant, and I don't understand why he wasn't plan number one. Cam said, I'm very concerned about pushing out Alisson for Mamardashvili. It's a massive risk. Yes, Ali is a little injury prone, but for a keeper, Mamardashvili is unknown in the Prem. I agree. I absolutely agree. I think you have to keep one of Kelleher or Alisson. I just think you have to. Otherwise, like you've said, and many others would probably agree, it seems like a massive risk to go from a goalkeeping department that is nothing but solid, whether it's Alisson, whether it's Kelleher, and Yaros has looked decent enough as well, but those two in particular, yeah, why would you go from having a very solid goalkeeping department to rolling the dice on one new keeper and to move the other two out? Again, this is something I think we need some confirmation on from the clubs or the journalists or people in and around Liverpool. Do you think Kelleher is better than Alisson? No, I don't. Alisson's the best goalkeeper in the world when fit, in my opinion. So nobody's better than him. Where do you think we finish next season? I don't think there's any way to answer that at the minute, Alex, because one, I don't know what squad we have. I don't know what impact the Club World Cup will have on the likes of City and Chelsea. I don't know what business City, Arsenal, others are going to do. I don't know if there will be a points deduction or anything for Man City. So it's really difficult to talk about next season when there's so much up in the air. But I feel comfortable talking about this season and saying we're winning the damn Premier League. And I think tomorrow could be a defining day in that. Because whatever happens between us and Newcastle, and of course we hope we get the win, I'll be very surprised if I see Arsenal winning at the City Ground. I will. I think a point is my thoughts on that one. I think that'll finish 2-2, something like that. But if Arsenal could win there and we win as well, I still think 10 games to go. Too many points for them to make up. It's done in my eyes, but I think tomorrow might be a turning point for some people. Anis said, thoughts on Baleba as a midfield option? A very credible one, but there was a piece last week to say that Liverpool, I might still have it in my notes, bear with me, man, I'm going to try and find it here for you, because Carlos Baleba is definitely somebody who we've been spoken about being linked with, not just us, I think there are other clubs as well, but I'm trying to find this story here for you so I can give the credit where it's due. I'm going back so many days, here we go. So this came in from Give Me Sport, and it said Liverpool are looking to beat Manchester City to the signing of Brighton's Carlos Baleba this summer. This is the part that worries me though. An offer of at least £115 million would be required to stand any chance of reaching an agreement with Brighton. And as much as I'd like him, we don't need to be spending £115 million on a midfielder. Not with Gravenberch in. Even allowing for the fact that I think we still need another midfielder, we don't need to be spending £115 million. We're not that much in need of midfield for me. Just no. Mark Baldwin said, do you think we signed Isak this summer? I'm on the fence because Newcastle are not going to want to lose him. And if Newcastle get Champions League football, I think the case for them keeping him grows because they won't have as many PSR headaches. The player will be able to be guaranteed Champions League football the following season. And I read an article yesterday that suggested that there was a series of meetings taking place for the Newcastle hierarchy over the next few days, somewhere in the countryside up and around Newcastle, that will determine the future of the direction that Newcastle are going. That's all I know. Didn't really go into much more detail than that, but yeah, I think they need to not qualify for the Champions League. Otherwise, he probably stays put. And understandably. No way is Baleba 150. No, sorry, Gio. I probably could have enunciated that better for you. It's 115, 115, 115. But either way, I still don't think he's worth that much either. Kono said, I've read that they probably will let Isak go. If they do, brilliant. You know, I'd love to see us as a buyer there. You know, if you got 60 to 70 for Darwin and Newcastle were willing to do business, it would have to be, oh God, I don't even dare to say this number, like, but you're talking £150 million being the asking price. Now, you're never going to get Liverpool paying £150 million guaranteed up front in one go for anybody. So it would have to be a case where it's a lower initial fee with achievable add-ons over a period of time. And even at that, I'm thinking, oh God, that's a big outlay. But would want it to happen. So we've gone over 1,400 votes now. We asked, would you be happy with Hato and Huijsen as the defensive options? 23% says no, 77% said yes. And thank you to everyone that voted. If I can ask you a quick favour, do drop a like on the stream if you can, ladies and gents. Appreciate your support. Right, more news to get through. I don't know what this means or if it means anything, but Fabrizio Romano pinned a story that he did about Trent, or a piece that he did about Trent from March 22nd of last year. He's pinned that to his account and on X, and it now says Real Madrid are monitoring Trent, blah, 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 blah. And again, it makes me feel like he's gotten the nod that Trent's going to Madrid. That's what it makes me feel. Because why else would you be pinning it unless you're going to come back to it and say, see, I said this all the way back then, and here we are now. I can't see any other reason for him to pin that. George Davison said, so who will we lose at the end of the season? Kelleher, Trent, Nunez. Yes, yes, yes. Pick a left back. Don't know which one it'll be, but one of them will move on. And then fringe players. The Tyler Mortons of this world, maybe. Yeah. I can't think of any other real surprise players that we may sell. Oh, Diaz, I guess, is the other wild card. Don't know what to expect with that situation. Cam said, can honestly see us selling Diaz, Jota and Nunez this summer. That would generate at least 100 million, surely. Oh, yeah. I'd say upwards of 100 million, Cam, for those three. I'd say you get 60-ish for Darwin. You'd have to imagine you get 40 handy for Jota. 40 million pounds. You'd have to get 40 million pounds for Diogo Jota. You'd have to. And then, who's the other one you mentioned? Diaz. Again, you're talking Liverpool looking upwards of 50 million pounds there. So, I think you've 150 probably be closer. Harry said, Joe Gomez potentially leaving, question mark. I think there's a chance, but not because the club want to get rid of Joe Gomez. I think Liverpool would absolutely be happy to keep Joe Gomez, but his career is just kind of fading away now, and he's a bit part player, and he's out injured at the minute, and there was some murmurings about him maybe going last summer. I think if Joe asks to leave and the right offer comes in, I don't think Liverpool would stand in his way. But I'd like him to stay. I think Joe Gomez's versatility is really important. Ederson, how are you, my friend? Said, I'm both a Liverpool and Gremio fan. Trent is playing the same cards Ronaldinho did a long time ago. Declaring his love for the team and leaving it for free. Don't need to come back. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me either. You know, I love the club. I want to captain the club, and also I'm not signing a new contract, and I'm staying quiet about it all. And oh look, all these stories about Real Madrid are coming out, and then I score and I do this. What's this? I still want to know what that is. I want to know what the fuck this is. I know it means people are talking, but are they wrong? Like, that's gonna be in my head now for a long time, because Bellingham did it and he left, Trent's doing it, and it looks like he's probably going to go. But I just don't get it, you know? If it's not true, then fair enough. But if it's true, people are just calling you out for your own bullshit then. Andy said, I can see wholesale changes in the summer. I reckon another garage sale of players, this time more senior, and a potential transition season. Look, I don't really mind some transition as long as it doesn't include Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk, because that for me is just too much. It's just too much change, because you need to properly succession plan for those two, and that's going to take time. It's going to take time to buy the player, bed them in over the course of a season or two, and let them transition and become used to playing at Liverpool Football Club, playing at big Champions League nights. And if we're talking about somebody like Dean Huijsen, going to have to fill out a bit, going to have to work on your upper body strength a bit, and that naturally will come with age as well as work on the training ground. And I'd also like these guys to be learning off your Virgil van Dijks and your Mohamed Salahs. George said, can't see Kelleher at Newcastle. They're signing Trafford. Chelsea is a very credible option. Leeds is another credible option. Leeds are going to look at a goalkeeper again. They look like they're coming back up to the Premier League. And I tell you what, I would think that would be a brilliant move for Queevy and Kelleher. Kelleher to Leeds, I think, would be a great move for him. I don't want him at Chelsea because, well, let's be honest, we don't like Chelsea, do we? Newcastle, I think, would be a great club for him as well. But, you know, if they have other targets, and the fact that their backup goalkeeper just signed a contract extension there as well. But Nick Pope's not that great anymore. So, yeah, I think if I'm Kelleher with those options, I take Leeds if it was offered to me. Could see Rio as a replacement in the squad for Lucho. They play so similarly. I mean, look, we've got Rio, we've got Ben Doak, we've got young Kumas. So there are options there for young, wide players. It's just a matter of which one the club feels closest to being maybe ready to put into this team. You know, and we'll find this out. We're all as excited as each other to see how young Rio progresses. So yeah, let's wait and see. Is Nico Williams a good option for us? I think he stays in Spain. You know, I think he's praying that Barcelona come back in for him. Arsenal are another name that we mentioned with Nico Williams. I'd take him in a heartbeat. I think he's a great player. I've mentioned his name for a year or so now as a great option. Are the contracts of Van Dijk and Salah looking good? So, obviously, I don't know the inside scoop on these contracts, but I can say to you that there feels like there's a lot of optimism amongst the Liverpool circles and the people covering the club. It feels a lot more optimistic now that we're getting closer to reaching some type of a positive outcome, especially when you've got the manager coming out today and saying he wants him to stay. So you've got the manager publicly saying he wants Salah to stay. You've got Salah publicly saying he wants to stay. You've got the fans publicly saying they want him to stay. I don't see a way that FSG get away with this if he doesn't. So, yeah, I think that one happens. And Virgil's the one that surprised me the most that it hasn't been done quickly, because you're talking about less sums of money. A player that doesn't necessarily have to rely on explosiveness or anything because of the position he plays and how well he reads the game. And the club captain. So that one is the most surprising to me, that it's dragged on as long as it has. Is Mo Salah the GOAT of Liverpool? No. The answer to that question, to most people, will always be Kenny Dalglish. Always. Because it goes above football with Kenny Dalglish. You're talking about what he did during the Hillsborough disaster and the funerals and everything that followed. You're talking about just him encompassing everything about the strength, the character of Liverpool. Even though he's Scottish, it's Kenny, man. Look, Salah's right up there. He's right up there and deserves to be up there in the pantheon of Liverpool greats. But I just don't see a world where anybody ever comes close to Kenny Dalglish in the grand scheme of things as the most important, pivotal player in the history of the football club. I just think the answer is always going to be Kenny. Are we going back to Adidas next year? Yes, we are. Which will be weird because we won't see the Adidas kit for the last home game of the season because Nike are understandably going to want to see their kit on Liverpool lifting a Premier League trophy, and the fact that there'll be a £2 million bonus there as well. But yeah, 100%. It's Adidas, and I can't wait. I'm buzzing to see the Adidas stuff. I'm buzzing, and I'm also scared because I'm going to be flat ass broke because I'm going to end up buying loads of it. A bit of a mad one here, but Lamine Yamal's contract ends in 2026. Although it's very likely that he will find an agreement to extend with Barcelona, if not multiple giants across Europe have expressed an interest and Liverpool's name has been mentioned. I mean, look, Barcelona will not be stupid enough to let Lamine Yamal leave. They will find a way to get that money. How's Harvey doing? He's really good, thank you, Irfan, man. Really, really good. Andy said, well said, Craig. There's a reason they call him King. Such a humble guy too. Mary said, very nicely said. Craig, thank you both. Look, he is. It's bigger than football. But what Kenny Dalglish means to Liverpool fans and of course the great city of Liverpool. He sacrificed himself for the club and for the city, and nothing is ever going to move past that for me. He is the god, the king, all of it. What's your take on Virgil's contract? I think it gets done. I think the general wisdom seems to be 2 years for him and Mo, minimum, with maybe an option. And I just think we're edging closer to this being sorted out. Especially, there were a couple of lines of thought that maybe Liverpool were holding off to see what happens with Trent's contract or whatever. But now that it feels like we're moving closer and closer and closer to a world where we're accepting that it looks like Trent is leaving, I think then the club have to try to push through these two deals and announce them. What's going to be very interesting here for me now is to see when we get an announcement on Trent. Because you can't let it drag on, especially with the possibility of Real Madrid in the Champions League. Don't take us for idiots and think that we're not going to be looking at Trent for that game and thinking you can't play him, because you can't until we know what's happening. And even if he's going there next season, no way would I be putting him on the pitch against Real Madrid over two legs. Don't care. Just wouldn't do it. Best Liverpool jersey you ever seen? So my favourites are the 88 home shirt, the 96 green and white away shirt, and the 96 kind of orangey third strip, I think, with all the Liverpool crests over it. Them and the 1990 grey fleck candy. They're my favourite ones. Dave said, if Mo and VVD is done, why are Liverpool holding back? I don't know, mate. And I've never believed that they are done and that the club are holding back. But the thought process was to not put the pressure on Trent. And I've never understood that. Because if I'm Liverpool, that's exactly what I'd want to be doing. Is saying, look, these are done. These lads buy into the project. These lads extended. These lads want to be here. I think it makes it an easier play for the club then to say, well, up to you, Trent. What you want to do? And if he decides to leave, then he decides to leave. But I've never understood not announcing them if they were done. So I agree with you. Craig, do we all think that Arne Slot wants Trent? Is he really a slot type player? What do you reckon? I reckon you're not alone in thinking what you're thinking there, Alan. A lot of people have said that to me. That, of course, we don't know what Arne Slot's thinking. We got to caveat everything by saying that. But a lot of people have said, yeah, they get the idea that maybe he isn't an Arne Slot type player. Maybe he feels like, we can get that creativity from other areas and get in a more defensively solid right back. But it's hard to know because we're not Arne Slot. But I don't think you're alone in that thought process anyway. Would you say Slot or Klopp is better, or is it too early to tell? I will never talk about who's better than the other, ever. Because it's incredibly disrespectful for me. Because what Jurgen did goes beyond just the trophies that he won. It was re-establishing us, making us attractive again, putting the belief back into the fan base, into the players, and re-energising the club. So it goes beyond what he won or didn't win. The fact that he won stuff is amazing, but we aren't where we are without Jurgen. So I'll never get to a point where I'm talking about who's better. I just will talk about them both in glowing terms, as they both deserve to be. Sean said, I'm getting a Liverpool 1920 jersey. Who should I get on the back? You're thinking Van Dijk. It's a good show. You can't go too far wrong there, my man. Virgil on the back of it, number 4. Casso said, are you excited for Adidas? Because I think Nike is useless at making kits. Oh, mate. If there's one thing nobody can say, it's that I haven't shown the Adidas love over the years. You know, you've seen every stream I'm on. I'm pretty much wearing Adidas all the time. And anyone who meets me out in the real world will say the same. You'll see me wearing Adidas. So I'm buzzing for it. And I would love to do something with Adidas or get some type of crossover, or because fuck me, nobody's repped Adidas better than I have in the Liverpool circles, even calling out Nike for the shit jerseys when Adidas were nothing to do with us. I love Adidas, so I'm going to be a broke ass SOB when Adidas come back to Liverpool. Ben said he turned doubters to believers. So I know that's kind of cringy phrase, Ben, isn't it? But you're right. He did. He absolutely did. So this is the best way. It's the best phrase to summarise it. He absolutely did. And it was a thing of beauty. An absolute thing of beauty. Jurgen's time with the club will only ever be looked at by me in godlike. You know, I absolutely worship the man. I couldn't believe it when we got him as coach. Couldn't believe it. No, man, said Craig's Adidas fanboy 101. When I start going out with my now wife, when we were 19, she had me in her phone as Adidas boy. Even back then when we were 19. I don't know what it is about it, but I've always been really drawn to Adidas. Jason said, I will play Bradley at right back and I will play Trent aside of Gravenberch and keep swapping him with Don McAllister and Jones. I don't want Trent near midfield. I've never wanted it to happen because I think we lose too much in other areas if he's in there. He just doesn't have the work rate for me to play in midfield for us. Vernon said, Craig, I met Klopp today. He's in South Africa, Cape Town. Oh, wow. That's class, Vernon. So happy for you, my man. Was it weird? Because when I was in a press conference with Jurgen, and you know me, I'll talk to anyone, I couldn't ask a question. I had to get Jono, the other guy who was with me, to ask it because, and this is embarrassing, but it's true, I sat there in awe of what was, and I was in the front row of the press conference. I was in the front row with my media credentials on in Dublin, and there's Jurgen sitting in front of me, and I could not ask the question. I bottled it. I had to let Jono, the guy that was with me, ask it because I'm just sitting there, and I don't get starstruck. Like, I've met a few famous people, and I've never been, but when he came in and sat in that fucking table 10 feet in front of me, I was like, I swear he had a glow. I swear to God, he just had some aura, some glow, that it was just otherworldly. I can't describe it, but I wanted to hug him. You know, I wanted to just run up, jump on that table and give him a big hug. I asked Mourinho a question the day before when United were there, and he was the coach. I was at those games as well. I asked him a question, no problem. But couldn't do it with Jurgen. And to this day, I still kind of look back and think, you're an asshole, Craig. What a chance, and you missed it. But yeah, it was the only time my whole life I've ever met anybody and been like starstruck. Just gone, it's Jurgen. I didn't want to say something that might disappoint him. Or I didn't want him to go, oh, I've seen you. I don't like you. You know, that kind of thing. I was a fanboy, 100% sitting there just. So I can only imagine, Vernon, how you got on today if you met him. I hope you got a photo with him. Did you see the Spanish newspapers reporting about Doku dribbling past Trent? He hasn't even joined them and they're criticising him. Well, you know, he's going to get plenty of that if he goes to Madrid. And he'll get it from the Madristas. He'll get it from the media. You know, they're ruthless. DD8ZX said, Craig, what's your opinion on the Champions League draw? Realistically, we'll be facing PSG, Villa and Real Madrid in the knockout phase. Do you think we have a good chance to win? Of course. I mean, it's going to be tricky. But when you're getting to the latter stages of the Champions League, it should be tricky. So, PSG, look, I'm confident that we dispatch PSG. I think there's a reason they finished where they finished in the Champions League, and their inconsistencies make me feel like over 2 legs will do them. The Villa game is very interesting if they get past Club Bruges, because we'd play them at Anfield first and then at Villa Park in the second leg. But again, hand on heart, I feel like we beat them. Then it comes down to the other end of the draw. And I'm going to say this now, and if it happens and I'm wrong, call me out on it. But there is no world on this earth, there's just no fucking existence that I can see Arsenal getting past either of the Madrid clubs. Either of them. I just don't think they have it. And I think that's where Arsenal's European journey ends. They'll get past PSV and that's it. They're not getting past either of the Madrid clubs. They just aren't. And I can't wait to see whose fault it is. Because it won't be theirs. And it won't be Arteta's. You know, it'll be, I don't know, the referee's fault, UEFA's fault, Pizza Hut's fault. I don't know, but it won't be Arsenal fans. Because, you know, it's never their fault. They never say we were beaten by a better team. It's always, well, this should have happened and this didn't happen, but that's where their journey ends for me. The ball. And look, even with their full complement of players, I don't think they get past either of the 2 Madrid clubs. I think Atleti will out-shithouse them, and I think Real Madrid will just blow them off the field at the Santiago Bernabeu and beat them comfortably. Ori said, greetings from Liverpool, Craig. I was at the Etihad as a double agent. I was in a tour at Anfield today, and tomorrow's my first game at Anfield. One of the best adventures of my life. That is so cool. I hope you're having a great trip. You picked a really good game, Ori, to go to. Liverpool-Newcastle, usually a game that's full of goals, and I hope I haven't jinxed that for you, my man. But, yeah, enjoy it, and I'm always so happy when I hear fellow Liverpool fans get to make that trip and go to see the Reds. So, yeah, brilliant. Enjoy. And what a game you went to up at the Etihad as well. Sean said, is it bad that I'm not bothered about Trent leaving? I still view him as a Liverpool legend, but I'm just kind of unfazed by it all. I don't think you're on your own, Sean. I think we've kind of been preparing for it probably in the back of our minds for a while. And look, like yourself, I don't want him to leave. I don't. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here and say I wouldn't prefer him to stay than leave. I absolutely would prefer him to stay, but I use the word cowardly about the way he's dealt with this situation, because I think it needs to be spoken about in the strongest of terms, because everybody's quick to make the local boy, grown up, idolise the club, make the videos, do all the schmoozing around that situation, big it all up, talk about how much the club means to him, grown up in the area, idolising Gerrard, all this stuff that hypes the player up and gives them that adulation of the fans, one of their own on the pitch, murals around Anfield. And then to not want to stay when we're at a very successful time with an exciting new coach and a stadium that's been expanded, Champions League football on the regular. I just don't understand how you can love the club that much and then want to get out. It stinks to me. It fucking stinks, the whole lot of it. And it stinks even more because he hasn't been upfront about it. I want him to say, and I wanted this a long time ago, look, it's been the toughest decision of my life. I've played at this football club for my entire footballing career. Love the city, love the club, love the people. It'll always hold a place in my heart. But I have an opportunity to go and play at another superly historic club with huge players, and I want to back myself on another journey. I think if he comes out and says that, people understand a bit more. But the staying quiet bit, it's look, I can't say another word other than cowardly because I can't think of another word, but it fucking feels like you took the coward's way out. It just does. To me. And I said it as soon as I heard the words, Trent's not talking about the contract renewal with Liverpool out of respect for the club. I thought, bullshit. Bullshit. You're not talking about it because you want jam on both sides of your bread. You want everybody to think you're staying. You want the club to think that Madrid are there and they still have a chance and give you a bigger offer. But if you really want to stay, it would have been dealt with very quickly. So I've always felt like he wanted out. And again, I get in trouble a lot of the time for saying stuff out loud that a lot of people are thinking but don't have the balls to stay on their platforms. But I call it as I see it, and I've always said I feel like he's been a little bit duplicitous in the way he's gone about this. Why would you want to leave, especially now? Look, whatever happened at Liverpool and any contract offer that went to him would probably make him top 3 best paid right backs in the history of football. He was on about 180 at Liverpool. I'm sure they were looking upwards of 220 to 250, maybe more. And if that isn't enough to get you to stay at your hometown club where you claim you want to be a captain with a huge contract, I don't know what else the club could do, you know. I've said it all the way through. Go right back to the time Jurgen left, and that's when it all starts. Jurgen leaves, and then the excuses start coming out. Oh, the lads, including Trent, don't want to sign a contract extension yet because they want to see who the next manager is. And everybody went, can understand that. That seems reasonable, right? Because it is. So then the manager comes in, and then the narrative became, well, doesn't want to extend because he wants to see the club's ambitions and if we're going to be competitive. And again, everybody went, I can understand that. That seems reasonable. So then we start the league and we race to the top of the league and we're flying in the Champions League and we're progressing through the League Cup. And then the excuses stopped being there because now we can talk about the new coach. Now you can't talk about the club being competitive. So what are you going to use as the excuse now? Or doesn't want to destabilise the season, doesn't want to talk about it publicly out of respect for the club. Come on. Come on. No. Be honest about it. Grow a pair. And same to the journalists that covered this shit and knew deep down in their hearts as well that it was bullshit. And look, if you think I'm wrong, by all means, tell me in the chat. But that's how I've always seen this situation, and that's how I see it now. And then what we're going to get is he'll announce he's leaving. Some arseholes will go too far and start doing the usual shit. You know, whether it's hateful posts, burning of jerseys, whatever. And then all of a sudden, the fans will be the baddies again. But the truth of it is, he should be called out for it. Because he, in my opinion, even if he stayed, he took the coward's way of dealing with it. And I don't like it. And I don't respect it. And I think the club deserve better and the fans deserve better. Do you think if 300k per week was on the table, Trent signs? Well, there was a report that suggested that was on the table. Now, I don't know what contract offers Trent has gotten. But he is going into his prime at 26. So you would imagine he's getting a pay rise on what he already has. Add into the situation that it's a free or a potential free transfer for him to leave. So you're going to get a nice little signing bonus as well if you stay at Liverpool. I just don't see why you don't stay unless you don't want to be here. In which case, the last 3, 4, 5 months have been horseshit. JJ McNamara said, "Hey Craig, I'm going to my first Merseyside derby with my mum. Can't wait to go to the Legends match as well. Much love from Tip." Oh, you'll have a great time, JJ. I went over to a couple of Merseyside derbies. I was at the 1-1 at Anfield when Jagielka scored that worldy goal late. And before that, I was at the 4-0 beating of Everton where Lukaku did his ACL in that game. Roberto Martinez was their manager and we beat them 4-0 at Anfield and missed a penalty. And, oh man, 2 incredible games that I'll remember. So have a great trip and I hope you and your mum enjoy it and take in the Legends game as well. And do let us know when you come back how you got on because I think you're going to have a great time. For me, Liverpool isn't a stepping stone club. It's a club a player moves to and stays at. We've seen players who move to Barcelona or Madrid and not worked. I agree. And look, again, I want to give our fans credit because I think they would have understood that. If you just come out and go, I want to try something new, and this is a massive club who are building something, and I've won the league at Liverpool, and I've won the Champions League at Liverpool, and I've won everything I can win here. And I just couldn't say no to this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I think everybody goes, I get it. I get it. But he didn't. And he hasn't. So, I think it's only natural then that you feel like, have you pulled a fast one here? Now look, again, we got to say, there is no announcement, 100%, that he's going. But, you know, I think sometimes you can almost read between the lines of what the narrative is and what the vibe is. Mark Lilly said, also, if you look at players that have left Liverpool thinking the grass is greener, turned into a nightmare for them. Look, I don't know what it's like to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't have a clue what his life is like. I don't know what the pressure is of playing for your hometown club in your hometown city with the expectation and the eyes that are on you. I don't understand those pressures. So I wouldn't have judged him. But I am going to judge him in this scenario if he leaves because of the way he's dealt with it. And I think that's me as a fan being more than fair about it. Be honest, and I think people understand it. But do it this way and drag it out and then say you're leaving. And I just think it's going to end up being a shitty outcome. Callum, what impact do you think Trent leaving will have on Liverpool if he leaves with both fans and the team? Not much is the answer to both. I think fans will kind of shrug their shoulders at it and think, oh well. And I think on the pitch, of the 3 lads that's contracts were up, he's the one that most people felt like would be the least upheaval on the pitch if he left. You know, obviously he's got longevity over the other 2 in their careers because he's only 26, but the other 2 are more important at this moment in Liverpool's history. At least for most of the people that I've spoken to. They feel like losing Virgil or Mo would have been a far bigger hole in the squad than losing Trent. Mark said, just be a man, Craig, about your intentions. This is the thing that annoys me, Mark, about football and modern day football and the media. Everybody is like Henderson's situation. You can throw that in the mix. Everybody is happy to throw and shower praise on these footballers. Hendo was an ally. Hendo was this. Trent is that. Trent's the local boy. All the media, all the stories, all the promo gear, all the Adidas shit, all the love and adulation that they deserve showered on them. But if they do something that's selfish, all of a sudden we're supposed to not call it out. We're supposed to just say, would you look, little darling, I'm not built that way. Sorry, I'm not. If you build these guys up and give them the platform and the buy-in from the fans and the love and the adulation, everything that goes along with that, and you stick two fingers up to us, I don't know what world people grew up in, but that feels like betrayal to me. And if somebody in my own life did that to me, I'd consider it a betrayal. So it feels like a betrayal here, because you haven't had the courage to be honest. And why are we afraid to call this? Why are we afraid to call people out for being pussies? Because the football world is a mad world where only positive PR is allowed. Players can only be amazing people with the best of intentions that never do anything selfishly or put a foot wrong, and the football clubs are always great and everything behind the scenes is great. And we live in this bubble of ignorance where we know some of the stuff we're being told is bullshit, but nobody calls it out because they're afraid. And that just allows this manipulation bullshit to continue, because they think, oh, they're buying this, they're swallowing this crap we're giving them. And it takes more people to actually say, look, let's be honest about this. You know, we don't have to go toxic or go to the far, but let's be fucking honest about it. You know, let's treat us as adults here and as intelligent people. Scott, how are you, my friend? From Brooklyn. We ain't no stepping stone. Much love, my man. Lovely to see you in again. And thank you for being with us as a member for 12 months, Scott. Till Sheen, have a good evening, my friend. Ultimately, a tax-free wage, better weather and easier football speaks too much for some. And that's cool, but just be honest about it. Like, I respected players who went to Saudi and said, I went for the money. To me, I'm like, yeah, you do you, bro. You go get paid. If that's your aim and you're in this for looking after your family and the next generation of your family and your extended family, grand. Be honest. But don't go full Jordan Henderson on me and telling me you're growing the game around the world and saving football. Fuck you. That's just nonsense. Isn't Trent vice captain? Yes, he is. But look, we can't make the decision. The club can't make the decision. Trent has to make his own decision. And I just think when we're getting to this point of the season where the possibility of us coming up against Madrid is maybe on the horizon, I just don't think we can continue to live in this ignorant world of thinking, well, sure, we'll continue to just trust them and play him because, you know, he loves Liverpool. You're not going to put your body on the line if I'm Trent and I have a pre-contract agreement to go to Real Madrid, and between now and the end of the season, there is absolutely no way I'm playing through any pain, putting myself in danger, or potentially going into a crunching tackle that might see me injured. That's human nature, because you're going to look after your future and you're going to want the best start at your next club. So for me, that means you're on the bench. And I don't want to hear he's a professional, because I don't care. I know human nature, and human nature is selfish. And if you have a big move on the horizon, you are not leaving it all out there on the pitch. You are not playing through a pain barrier. You're not going the extra yard. And nobody will convince me otherwise. Especially when I've seen it against United, and you see him jogging back in other games, and the manager screaming at him and taking him off because he wasn't sprinting back. Trent should never have taken the vice captaincy if he wasn't committed, said Cam. Look, I don't have any issues around the captaincy, vice captaincies, any of this stuff, but I said this the other night, Cam, and I'll say it again now. Even if Trent signs a new 4-year contract tomorrow, I don't think he's a Liverpool captain. I don't. I just don't see a leader in him. Maybe I'm wrong. I can only give you my opinion, though. Trent has the club over a barrel, said Eamon Kelly. Yeah, he does. And that's a situation that the club have allowed to happen. And there's no denying that, Eamon, you're right. This situation has played out in a way where, and I said this last summer, every week that goes by, the leverage is shifting further and further to Trent. Every week that goes by without him signing a deal, the club are having less and less leverage in this situation and are going to have to pay more for it. And for a club that's supposed to be super clever and make every penny count, I can only feel that I think the club don't really care if he leaves either. You know? And we may never know this, but I get the feeling that deep down Edwards and co think 250 odd grand for a right back, I think we can get cheaper. You know? I do. They'll never say that publicly, but I know that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be like, right, yeah, I want him to stay. Here's an offer. If you don't want it, I'm not going to bend over backwards here. You're not putting us over a barrel. Off you pop. We'll find somebody else. But I wouldn't have let it go this long. I'd have given him a deadline, and a hard deadline where it would have been very clear. Here's the contract offer. That's the best we have. You have a month. Come back with an offer or with an answer. If you don't have an answer, we're going to take it if you're not staying, and we'll withdraw the contract offer. I'd be that simple with it. But of course, this feels like everyone's playing for a battle of hearts and minds, and nobody wants to be the baddie in the situation, and nobody wants to be the big bad man that made Trent make a decision. Everybody has to pussyfoot around, and again, I just think it's not realistic. Lloyd said, Craig, do you believe FSG will stump up this summer? Yes. Now, what stumping up means to you and what it means to me, I don't know, but yeah, they have to. Like, in a weird way, it's made me feel a bit calmer hearing many people talk about the club going for a big wholesale change summer where a new 3 or 4 superstars are being paid for. Because at least then that justifies the last 2 windows. You know, if Liverpool spend big this summer, we can at least look back at January and last summer and go, right, well, there was a plan and they were keeping the cloth dry and they did have a list of targets and now it's about executing that list. So the reason I'm saying I believe it is because if they don't stump up, that's basically a fuck you to everybody if they don't stump up the dough this summer. Keith said, it's the club's fault anyway, so nobody's playing with themselves. Should have been done last year. So Keith, I don't know, you don't know, and many of us don't know what the club situation was. So I remember a story that was doing the rounds just after Jurgen left or announced he was leaving. And the story was that the club could have hoodwinked Trent and Virgil and Mo into signing deals without letting them know the full extent of the Jurgen situation. But they didn't want to do that out of respect for the players. And then it gets to a point, Keith, where you're like, yes, the club have made a mistake and there's no denying that. But you can't force someone to sign something that they don't want to sign. You know? So for all you or I know, the club could have spent 9 months here trying to get Trent to renew and kept getting the cold shoulder or been putting the long finger. And then it just becomes a case of how much rope do you give him before you call him out? And we aren't at that point yet with the club, obviously. Stumping up means buying Isak. Well, you can only buy him if he's available, but I agree. That would be a huge signal of intent. If you brought in Isak, you kept Virgil, you kept Mo, and you brought in your left back and your centre back, let's get those trophies. And I take a lot of encouragement from what Arne has been saying. In the background, we're working on strengthening the squad for the summer. That would mean that for the upcoming years, we will be able to challenge for every trophy we are playing for. I like that. That's promising from Arne. But, you know, we have to see it happen. We have to see these players come in. Jason Morrison Welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, Jason. Thank you, my man, for becoming a member. Also, again, want to quickly remind everyone that right now, tickets are on sale. Link at the top of the chat. If you want to come and see us for our end of season party, which is the 28th of May, 3 days after the last game of the season and 4 days before the Champions League final, we are live. The Hot Water Comedy Club, myself, Connor, Steve Bland, Jack Gill, Chris Stonage, all of us together for one night, and it's going to be fun. If you want to come along, you can get your tickets with a link at the top of the chat. What else have we got? Alex said, I'm not optimistic, Craig, because nothing FSG does surprise me anymore. They are Clint's and need to just do one. Look, you don't need to convince me of their cheapness, mate. I've been on board. In fact, you know, while we're talking about their cheapness, you know, I've coined a phrase from it, bro. Where's the money, John? Where's the money? So, yeah, I know, man, I agree with you, but they've done nothing for 2 windows. It makes no sense for them to continue to do nothing. They have to do something. Or sell up, like you've said. If you don't have the appetite in the stomach for the fight, then sell up. Are there any journalists that you think adequately challenge the club? Seems to be a lockdown on any real probing questions since Tony Barrett became the club media lead. Are there any journalists that I think adequately challenge the club? I think it's a difficult question to answer, because are we talking about journalists that have access? So journalists that are at press conferences, journalists that are in the press box. If that's what you're talking about, then no, I don't think there's anyone. But I do think that there are journalists who are questioning more but don't have the same relationship with the club. So there are some journalists that I think are willing to challenge the narrative and call stuff out. But when it comes to people who have access to the club, no, I don't think there's anybody that I feel comfortable in saying. I did think that David Lynch maybe was that guy who was willing to call out what needed to be called out. Respectfully, of course. But, you know, it seems like I was wrong on that one. But I feel like that whole media relationship with the football club is cowardly. Cowardly seems to be a word I've been using a lot, but I can't think of any other walk of life where there's no room for a challenging or dissenting voice in the landscape to keep people honest or to probe for answers that they want of genuinely fair questions. Can you? You know, I can't. Politicians have to answer them all the time. I think football's got itself in this bubble where football clubs are so powerful and they dangle these things over and tell you what you can and can't ask. It's just duplicitous to me, and I find the whole thing unnerving, because what have you got to hide? What are you afraid of being asked? You know, do people who spend all this money to support the club, to travel with the club, to buy the TV stuff, should they not be able to ask a question that you might feel a bit uncomfortable answering? Tough shit. You know, it's the big boy table. But what really boils my fucking blood is not that they don't have the nuts to do it. It's that they then have the cheek to look down at the rest of us. That's the part that winds me up something fierce. They don't have the balls to do it, and when anybody calls them on it, they get straight into defensive mode and start to undermine people and belittle people and blacklist people and all the other cowardly shit that they continue to do. That's what annoys me. Is because you know we're right. You know all the people that are saying to you that you don't have a dissenting voice to say about the club or a dissenting word. You know, they all know deep down that we're right. But they have to lash out because it clearly hits a nerve with them when people say to them, because it's something that I think when they put their little heads on their little pillows and they're putting on their John W. Henry pajamas, they know. They know. Huijsen isn't good. Sorry, get Murillo or Schlotterbeck. I mean, He's not there, the finished product, but nor should he be at 19. Murillo, I think, is a bit... I'm not convinced on Murillo for our system, but he is a very good centre-back. And who was the other name you mentioned? Schlotterbeck. I haven't watched enough of Giannis to give you a fair answer on that one. Right, I need you to do me a favour though. Hit that like button if you have enjoyed the stream. Let's try and get it up to 1,000 likes. I'm going to really quickly fly through all the news from start to finish for everyone. So if you're coming in for a recap, I'm going to go through it all now. And then just remember that tomorrow we're live from 7 p.m. because it's an 8:15 kickoff for the game. So we'll be live from 7 o'clock tomorrow. And the video is going to be coming out with Ben Bochak. That video was recorded earlier on. We're putting that out at about 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow, where we spoke about Kirkales, we spoke about Soboslai, and we spoke about the Salah situation. Right, let's get through the news. So, Arne Slot on Mo Salah's contract. If he does really well, the more expensive he becomes. If he didn't play so good, maybe we would have second thoughts about whether we want him to extend. And then the really key phrase at the end of it, hopefully he will extend. So it's clear what the manager wants. Arne Slot, according to Paul Joyce and others, then confirmed that Conor Bradley is out for a few weeks. Didn't give an exact time frame. Arne Slot speaking about players coming into the club. He said, if you want to play at this club, you need to be at Salah's level, or you are almost useless to play at this club. We only need players at the top of their game. This is one of, if not the best club in the world to play for. Yes, Arne. Top man. Spot on. Then we moved on to a story the Anfield Buzz posted, crediting a Spanish outlet, saying Trent Alexander-Arnold has rejected Liverpool's contract proposal. Trent has a verbal agreement with Real Madrid on a 4-year contract, and Liverpool are aware of the situation. Arne Slot then, speaking about transfers, said, in the background, we are working on strengthening the squad for the summer. That would mean that for the upcoming years, we will be able to challenge for every trophy we're playing for. Then a story from the Mirror, which is exciting. The Mirror said, Liverpool want to sign Alexander Isak this summer. Newcastle will demand about £150 million for the striker. Let's see if we pay that. Then there was Anfield Sector posted 5 p.m. has come and gone without Arne Slot's punishment being delivered by the FA. As it stands, he will be on the touchline for Newcastle tomorrow, but looks likely he could miss being on the touchline for the Carabao Cup final if he receives a ban and not a fine after 5 p.m. tomorrow. So again, we'll see what happens there. Then there was a story coming out of Spain from Dario AS that LFC Transfer Room posted saying Georgi Mamardashvili is back to being human and no longer is seen as their miracle goalkeeper after a number of mistakes. He now finds a starting position at risk of being taken away, although his professionalism is not being questioned. Sepp van den Berg then, speaking about potential opportunities that would have arose at Liverpool this summer, or this season, said, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't look at Liverpool's defensive injuries myself. That's football, and you don't know. I did well in pre-season, and I really saw myself playing for the club. So, obviously, Sepp feels like maybe he should have been given more of a chance. This from the Daily Mirror said Arne Slot is not impressed with Darwin Núñez. Liverpool are desperate to sign a world-class forward in the summer. Then we talked about Fabrizio Romano pinning his post from the 22nd of March 2024 about Real Madrid and Trent. You ask, why is he pinned that? Well, he must feel like that situation's developing and he's about to say, told you so. Mohamed Salah said, I talk to the players, defenders on my side. They defend me. If some of them trash talk, I don't like to engage. I tell them, look, I don't need much, one chance and you'll pay for it. I love that. Then we went to another story that said Real Madrid are no longer just optimistic about Trent. Trent's arrival is now seen as a firm thing. Trent has rejected the proposals from Liverpool and they're aware of it, and that's why Conor Bradley has started more games. Then there was a piece from Fakaches who said Liverpool have identified Xavi Simons as potential replacement for Mohamed Salah if he leaves as a free agent. RB Leipzig value him at about €90 million, which feels like bullshit to me. Then some Fabrizio Romano quotes. He said, Real Madrid keep Trent on top of their list and are not changing their mind. Nothing is changing at the club. Trent. A very clear message from Madrid. Real Madrid are obsessed with Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is option number 1, 2, 3. Today I can tell you also 4 and 5. They see him as the perfect piece for their puzzle. And then he went on to say, breaking, Liverpool are monitoring Joel Hato. They're already planning with their scouting department for at least 2 or 3 more missions in the Netherlands to follow Hato. Liverpool have been following Hato for a long time, and they keep following his progress. He's for sure one of the players being watched by Liverpool along with Huijsen. He's one to watch for the summer. That is pretty much everything that we went through tonight, and most of the news that we've seen today as well. So, yeah, a lot to digest there, but again, all we can do is see what happens. And look, tomorrow we've got a big game, and I'm buzzing for it, and I'm sure you guys are as well. And I will see you from 7 o'clock here for the watch along. Again, if you want to come see us in Liverpool, you can see the tickets linked at the top of the chat and in the description of the stream. I'm going to say goodnight to you. I'm going to grab some rest before tomorrow. But thank you for joining us again. Appreciate all of your support. If you haven't, hit the like button for me, please do, before you head off. And I will see you tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.